Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Economic Planning Chief Arsenio Balisacan says that the country's growth targets remain on track despite recent floods disrupting business activity. Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon is asking the Justice Department to issue immigration lookout bulletins against personalities linked to the flood control scandal, including contractors Curlee and Sarah Discaya. And MVP to the rescue as ultrabillionaryo Manuel Pangilinan enters talks to buy Primewater from fellow ultrabillionaryo Manny Villar. Wall Street closes lower after a federal appeals court struck down most of President Donald Trump's tariffs, adding new uncertainty for the markets. The divided court issued its ruling Friday, but allowed the levies to remain in place until October 14th. Trump says his administration will seek an expedited review before the Supreme Court.
The markets are starting September with a continued decline from Friday's small sell-off after a really good month in August. We got some news that courts have said that the tariffs of the Trump administration may not be legal, or from their perspective are not legal. And so now something that we thought was kind of settled isn't maybe as settled as we had expected.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average falls 0.5%, the S&P 500 loses 0.7%, and the Nasdaq drops 0.8%. In Europe, markets also closed lower. London's FTSE slipped 0.9%, Germany's DAX sheds 2.3%, and France's CAC 40 lower by 0.7%. Here at home, the government says the country's growth targets for this year remain intact, despite recent floods that have disrupted economic activity. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan told senators that businesses can adjust, with some firms expected to work overtime to cover lost ground. However, he warned that frequent disruptions could drive up costs that are harder to recover. Balisacan pointed out that floods like last Saturday's led to class suspensions, office closures, and stalled economic activity. He added that replacement spending by households and rehabilitation by government may give a short-term boost, but the effect is only temporary. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto says questionable flood control projects may have robbed the economy of as much as 119 billion pesos. Speaking at the Senate Development Budget Coordination Committee briefing, Recto presented data showing that so-called ghost projects drained 118.5 billion pesos from 2023 to 2025. Funds, he says, could have created 266,000 jobs. Recto warned that raising revenue is already difficult, yet much of it fails to reach the people it is intended to help. He added that his full support for President Marcos's directive to closely scrutinize the 2026 National Expenditure Program. Philippine traders face fresh logistics headwinds, with ocean freight rates to Asia, Europe, and the United States climbing this month, adding 5 to 7 days to delivery times. The spike is tied to early holiday season preparations, a pattern that surfaces every September. But unlike neighbors, Malaysia and Singapore, where capacity remains ample, the Philippines is seeing higher rates, even without a shortage of space. Air freight to the United States is also getting costlier, with space tightening as manufacturers close their quarter ends. Global logistics service provider Dimerco adds that uncertainty over new U.S. tariffs could reshape trade routes, pushing companies to rethink supply chains and cost structures. Investment pledges from ASEAN countries to the Philippines have reached nearly 252 billion pesos since 2020. Board of Investments data shows Singapore as the clear leader, accounting for 245.95 billion pesos of the total. Far behind are Thailand with 4.34 billion, Malaysia with 1.65 billion, and Indonesia with just 12.27 million pesos. Trade Secretary and BOI Chairperson Cristina Roque says the numbers highlight the region's growing confidence in the Philippines as an investment destination. Newly appointed Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon is drawing a line on bidding abuses, warning that companies owned by a single family should not be allowed to compete for the same government project. This comes after businesswoman Sarah Discaya admitted during a Senate hearing that all 9 of her construction firms submitted bids for a single project. In an interview on BNC's On Point, Dizon slammed what he calls collusion. He is now pushing for a temporary suspension of bidding in flood control projects, an area already marred by allegations of overpricing and ghost contracts.
Most of them are legitimate projects that need to be built.
Okay.
And we're already so far behind a lot of these projects that we have to do things quickly. I need to look at the bids and awards committees that are there. Ilan ba sila? No, sino ba sila?
That's very important.
Very important. No, very important.
Yung back.
And ano yung proseso? No? Ano yung proseso nila dyan? No?
Well,
I have to find that out. So we have to pause, we have to review, and if we see something that we feel is not right, we have to revise those procedures.
Dizon further acknowledged that the proposed DPWH budget for next year contains questionable items that need to be cleaned up.
We should not overcomplicate this. If it's a double entry and it's a project that needs to be built, then take out the other entry. And whatever the amount there, ibawas.
Vice President Sara Duterte accuses the Marcos administration's flood control probe of being too little, too late, calling it a diversion from wider corruption issues. She warns that irregularities extend far beyond flood control projects and accused Malacanang of using the issue to deflect criticism.
Alam yun ni President Marcos, BBM, alam niya yun kasi tinake up din yun during a meeting in Malacanang. Pero he looked the other way.
Adding to the tensions, President Marcos's sister, Senator Amy Marcos, alleges that the administration is pushing Justice Secretary Boying Remulla for the ombudsman post as a Plan C to target Vice President Duterte and her allies. Remulla, however, insisted that he would never allow the office to be used as a political weapon.
The ombudsman has to be fair. Sa akin naman, it has to be fair. Hindi naman dapat weaponized. It should never be weaponized.
Senator Panfilo Lacson is raising red flags over questionable flood control projects in La Union, alleging they were inserted into the budget without ever being part of the original plan. Local residents and officials claim the funds never went to infrastructure, but were diverted into cash payouts for vote buying during the elections. COMELEC confirms 4 reports of vote buying in the province, all dismissed after complainants failed to provide evidence. Meanwhile, La Union representatives Paulo Ortega and Dante Garcia have yet to comment on the allegations. The Bureau of Customs says it has now secured all 12 Discaya-linked luxury vehicles previously flagged as unregistered and possibly smuggled. During the initial raid at the St. Gerard construction compound in Pasig on Tuesday, the agents found only 2 of the 10 vehicles being sought. But officials confirm all cars have since been surrendered and are now under guard by BOC personnel.
Ngayon, binibigyan naman natin ng tamang pagkakataon ang mga may-ari, ang Discaya family na ipakita sa Bureau of Customs yung kanilang mga pinagbayaran. Pag nakita naman natin na tama ang kanilang pinagbayaran, yun ang interest ng Bureau of Customs. Subalit, pag kulang yan o kung may diferensya sa papel, magkakaroon po ng problema ang pamilya.
Customs Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno warns that if these vehicles are proven to be smuggled, both the importers and the brokers involved will be facing criminal charges on top of the tax liabilities. Corruption controversies, new tariffs, and pressures on trade flows are putting the Bureau of Customs under the spotlight. To help us understand how the agency is responding, we're joined by Attorney Vincent Philip Maronilla, Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs. Good morning, Attorney Jet, and thank you for being here with us.
Morning, Mikey, and good morning to all your
Okay,
viewers.
so much to talk about. Let's talk about what really is on top of mind first, given the headlines. We'll begin with a probe into government contractors Sarah and Curlee Discaya following yesterday's raid on their property. Customs initially found only 2 of the said vehicles flagged as unregistered, but during your raid, now all 12 have been surrendered. How did the rest resurface, and what's next?
I think when we explained to them early that morning about the consequences of not producing those cars, despite claims by them that they own those cars, I think their lawyers were able to advise them, of course, of the propriety of just producing those cars and surrendering to the Bureau of Customs for us to be aided with the probe that we're conducting. So I think that brought about their decision to bring back those cars at the venue where we actually served the search warrant.
So suddenly the 10 cars just came up. Any indications of where they were placed? They weren't on the property initially?
Well, the explanation was that they were being used. But again, whatever the explanation was, what's important is that they were able to produce those cars and we were able to complete the service of the search warrant and, of course, more importantly, our letter of authority to all subject vehicles.
Yeah, all 12 being used, all 10 being used simultaneously. But in any case, the point is it's all with the BOC now. Moving forward, the scope of this probe is now widening naturally to include even the Discaya's vehicle suppliers, Auto Art and Frebel Enterprises. Where does this investigation stand today?
I think that's a natural consequences of any customs inquiry. The Discayas claiming that they bought this through dealers, and of course we'll look into those dealers and their importers. So now the record stands that we've already traced, based on their statements, the supposed dealers of these vehicles, and of course per our records were also the importers. So we will now begin our probe by looking into the records of the Bureau of Customs as against the submissions that are going to be made by the Discayas relative to the documents they have for these vehicles. So they're given 15 days from the service of the letter of authority yesterday to produce all documentations relating to the importation of these vehicles.
So right now you're in the verification process to make sure that payments and duties and taxes were all paid. What would be the best case and the worst case for the Discayas on this front?
Well, if they're not involved in the importation of these vehicles, then the one that's going to be held liable, of course, are the importers and the dealers who sold them these vehicles. But if they're involved in any manner in the importation of these vehicles, say, for example, they know how these vehicles were imported, they may merely contracted the service of these importers to import for them these vehicles, then they'll also be charged with whatever it is that we're going to charge these importers.
Yeah. During the interviews that Discayas gave with the media prior to this, this fiasco, they had said that they owned more than 12 cars. Why is the focus only on the 12 cars? And is it because these are the luxury vehicles? What are your thoughts on this?
We're not saying that the focus is only on the 12 cars. We're saying that the ones where we secured search warrant with, meaning that the ones that had probable cause were these 12 cars, mainly because based on our records, they have the probability of having violated our customs laws. But of course, this probe will extend to those cars that are owned by the Discayas, even if they're not subjected to the search warrant, because we have that authority also to inquire into those cars. Once any violation has been established for these 12 cars and the other cars that admittedly they said they own, other processes will be issued by the Bureau of Customs to make them answer either for deficiency duties and taxes or liabilities on our penal laws based on their actuations.
Attorney Jet, what are the timelines we're looking at here before we see the results of these probes?
When we receive the documents from them, if they're able to at least provide us their documents, even before the 15-day period, then it's only about 5 to 10 days that the Bureau can actually verify this and have a conclusion on what the violations were or if there are any.
On another front, Attorney Jet, I wanted to talk about corruption, lifestyle checks, and public scrutiny. The president is ordering lifestyle checks amid all the corruption scandals, especially in the flood control projects. The families of customs officials are now under intense public scrutiny, with the Enciso sisters trending online as the so-called BOC sisters, because their father, Vern Enciso, was, until a month ago, a high-level customs intelligence officer, 17 years with the BOC. And now critics are pointing to the sisters' luxury lifestyle as a reflection of the corruption inside the Bureau. How is the BOC responding to this kind of public spotlight?
First, Director Enciso is not anymore connected with the Bureau of Customs. No, he was a month ago. The president issued a new appointment, designated a new director for Customs Intelligence and Investigation Service. So Director Enciso's service has been severed from the Bureau. Well, as far as the Bureau is concerned, we've been subjected to several lifestyle checks already. I think that's a regular practice and occurrence within the Bureau and within the Department of Finance family. In fact, there's a specific office under the Department of Finance which conducts integrity processes against the employees under that particular department. So that's a regular happening for us. So we don't we fully cooperate and we fully support the president's call for a lifestyle check. I think based from our experience, it's been a material tool for us to identify which among our ranks may have not been following the prescribed lifestyle, and of course may have some suspicion in terms of their dealings as based from the lifestyle checks that we've been conducting.
Would you know if Vern Enciso, after 17 years with the BOC, is still with the government to this day, or has he become a private citizen?
I don't think he's connected to the government. I'm not, of course, I'm not aware of his current employment status. But as far as I'm updated with some old colleagues of mine, which knows Director Vern, I think he's a private citizen now.
Okay. In any case, Director Enciso, he was with the BOC for 17 years. Annually, there are lifestyle checks. How is it that even given those lifestyle checks, hindi nasilip that his two daughters, Vern and Vernice Enciso, had these luxury lifestyle blogs which show a life that really doesn't match the capacity? What are your thoughts on this?
But I think that's best answered by Director Enciso. I'm sure within that span of time, I've been with the BOC for quite some time already, and I can say for sure that there were several lifestyle checks conducted within that period. And I'm pretty sure with the rank being held by Director Enciso, even from before, he's been subjected to several. So the findings of which I think are left to the agencies that conducted those checks against him, and of course maybe he himself can actually answer for the probes that were conducted against him and what are these results. But I'm sure but what I can say is that I'm sure at a certain point there were several checks conducted with BOC personnel, and I'm sure that included Director Enciso.
I guess the next question is, how do we rebuild trust for the BOC? Would the BOC support lifestyle checks that go beyond senior officials to extend to their families in light of all of this?
I think that's been done to us. I think, again, being a revenue generating agency, I think that's a normal occurrence for us now. That's part of our way of ensuring that our lifestyle and our integrity is maintained in terms of being consistent with what the law prescribes and the Constitution prescribes. So yes, we know how this thing goes, and I think it extends to a certain degree of our relationships.
Okay. In today's time, which areas in customs remain the most vulnerable to corruptions? A lot has been said about the assessment functions. They say there's a lot of corruption there. And how might going digital curb this or remove it, if not remove it entirely?
It's a priority for the Bureau of Customs. No? Again, Commissioner Ariel Naposeno has time and again said that it's his priority to actually digitize the entire customs process. No? I think we don't need to overemphasize it because studies, international studies and local studies have pointed to digitalization as the sole solution in eliminating discretion in the most sensitive processes of the Bureau of Customs. Most particularly, you mentioned assessment. So I think we're all in agreement, and that's the priority now of the Bureau of Customs.
Okay.
Before the president terms ends, our processes will be digitalized and eliminating discretion coming from our personnel.
Yeah. Okay. Attorney Jet, in your opinion, what are the biggest threats to the BOC today, both internally and externally?
Well, for one, in terms of smuggling, I think we've seen a shift from smuggling operations from the ones where we need to guard and be more strict in guarding our ports to extending to our shorelines, our expansive shorelines. Recent reports, as you know, have reported that there are illicit and illegal items being smuggled through the vast shorelines where we don't have ports of entry anymore. And therefore, these are outright smuggling activities. So that's a challenge for us now. And we're coordinating with other government agencies capable of helping us in thwarting that particular threat. In terms of revenue collection, of course, the global trend right now in terms of what the U.S. is doing and what other countries are doing to protect themselves from that move by the U.S. also affects the Philippines because these countries are our biggest trade partners, and whatever little policies in trade that they might implement will affect, of course, our trade and, of course, the revenue coming in from the Philippines and how we help.
Yeah.
How we also help our industries, right? And of course, issues on trade facilitation is very important as well. We want to focus on that. We want to at least balance whatever strictness or whatever policies we implement, anti-smuggling policies we implement to at least balance it out with our trade facilitation implementation guidelines.
You mentioned the U.S. and the tariffs. With the new U.S. tariffs on Philippine exports shifting global flows, have you guys already started feeling changes in volume and in collections on account of the U.S.'s 19% tariff on exports from the Philippines?
Collection, since we don't have any export duties, we don't really feel any. But in terms of the volume, I think our exporters are still feeling that out, and I think they're still in the process of consulting with their suppliers and their importers at the other end. So right now, we've not felt at least a big dent in the volume of our exports.
Okay.
But that might change in the next few weeks or a few months, depending on how the market reacts. In terms of revenue imports, where our revenue is actually affected. Again, I don't think we've seen that yet. I think everybody's still trying to conduct certain measures, trade measures, to limit the impact of the actions of the United States towards other trading partners. So
Yeah.
for now, we're still looking into consistent volume in terms of what we predicted for the year.
Okay. Let's shift specifically to collection targets. In the first half, you had a shortfall of about 1 billion pesos. The full year revised 2025 target is 958 billion pesos. Given the changes in the macroeconomic backdrop and the U.S. tariffs, are you confident that you're going to hit this 958 billion peso target for 2025, sir?
Yes, in fact, we're aiming to place a little bit of a surplus to be able to help the government in their expenditures. So we're very much confident that we will hit our full year target and maybe who knows, provide a little bit of a surplus for the government.
Yeah, that would be nice. Lastly, Attorney Jet, you've spent 15 years inside customs, seeing its challenges, controversies, and reforms up close. Looking ahead, what lasting change would you believe is the most critical to transforming the BOC into an institution the public and the business community can really trust?
Let me say this: in my 15 years here, comparing it to my very first year, we've improved leaps and bounds, and we'd attribute that to every commissioner, I think, who's contributed in their own way in improving the Bureau of Customs. But now we have this rare opportunity from really being in a place where we're a so-so to something where we can actually make a very substantial change. And I think Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno is taking that opportunity and gambling into entering into digitalization projects and really pushing for the digitalization of the Bureau of Customs. We have the best chance of actually achieving full digitalization within his tenure and within the tenure of the term of the president, and I think we're going for it.
That's going to be it's going to be very interesting to see the changes under the new BOC Commissioner, Ariel Nepomuceno. Thank you for your time, Assistant Commissioner Attorney Jet.
Thank you, Maiki, and good morning.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's take a look at how Asian markets are doing this morning. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of red. The Nikkei 225 is down by 0.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is flat. Shanghai's Composite is lower by 0.6%. And Singapore's Straits Times Index is down by 0.3%. Here at home, yesterday was another downbeat day at the local bourse, with the PSE Index slipping 0.2% to 61.29, dangerously close to the 6100 level. Trading was anemic, with 1.16 billion shares worth 5.6 billion pesos trading hands. Analysts say market sentiment remains guarded amid expectations that August inflation may have quickened, fueling speculation that the central bank could push back rate cuts to possibly next year. Taking a look at the PSE Index this morning, as of 10:34, the main gauge is well entrenched in negative territory, and it's fallen below the 6100 level. We're now down by 0.9%, almost 1%, to 60.73. Broader all shares index in the red as well, down by 0.5% to 36.62. Out of all the sub-indices, we're looking at a mixed picture here. The financials, industrial, property, and services counters are keeping the market in the red, whereas the holding firms and mining and oil counters are going the other way, with mining and oil counter sharply up by 2.12% in early trade. Now, volume traded is at 148 million pesos, valued at 1.27 billion pesos. Market breadth is bearish, with 76 decliners, 64 advancers, and 50. A trend that could strengthen security but also strain the government's budgets in the years ahead. Capital Economics expects most nations to lift defense outlays by 0.5 to 1.5% of GDP over the next 2 years, with the big question being how these increases will be funded. If covered by borrowing, defense spending could provide a short-term boost to growth, but higher taxes or cuts to other programs could offset any benefit. In the Philippines, the room to borrow is tighter, meaning any big defense hike would almost certainly require reducing spending in other sectors. For 2026, the government has earmarked 430.9 billion pesos for defense, about 6.3% of the national budget. The Philippines is reviving its shipbuilding industry with the reopening of a major shipyard in Subic Bay. Now operated by South Korean giant HD Hyundai, the yard will begin work on a 115,000-ton petrochemical carrier, the first of 4 vessels ordered by an Asia-based shipping firm. President Marcos says the facility will help boost exports, create jobs, and employ 4,300 Filipinos by 2030. HD Hyundai also aims to position Subic as a strategic hub aligned with the U.S.-led Make America Shipbuilding Great Again campaign. Manuel Pangilinan is in talks to acquire Manny Villar's troubled Primewater infrastructure, a move that could shape the future of the Philippine water sector. Pangilinan's Metro Pacific Water, a subsidiary of Metro Pacific Investments Corporation, is said to be eyeing full control of the company, which serves over 1.7 million households, but has been criticized for poor service and political issues. Several other groups are also interested, with Primewater facing headwinds from customer complaints and political pressure on owner Manny Villar to divest. The acquisition would expand MPIC's water sector footprint, already established through Maynilad, and could improve service reliability. San Miguel Corporation is pouring more funds into its flagship airport project in Bulacan, using proceeds from its 20 billion peso bond issuance. In a disclosure to the Philippine Stock Exchange, the SMC reported that over 471 million pesos was recently disbursed as an additional investment in the New Manila International Airport. To date, nearly 17 billion pesos from the offer has been released, leaving a balance of 2.82 billion pesos. San Miguel, through its unit, San Miguel AeroCity Incorporated, is developing the 740 billion peso mega project on a 2,500-hectare site in Bulacan. The world-class Aerotropolis is designed to handle up to 100 million passengers annually. Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has dismissed 2 supervisors accused of falsifying attendance records for 4 staffers. Their retirement benefits have been forfeited, and they are now permanently banned from public service. The BSP says the Monetary Board's decision followed a comprehensive deliberation. Reports have also linked former Monetary Board members Bruce Tolentino and Anita Linda Aquino to the controversy. Both were appointed during the Duterte administration. A new survey by the social weather stations shows 35% of Filipinos report their quality of life has improved over the past year. The second quarter 2025 poll also found 23% said life got worse, while 42% felt no change at all. Gains were most significant in the Visayas and Mindanao areas, with net gainers rated excellent at plus 22 and very high at plus 16. Balanced Luzon, however, registered a slight decline. Overall, the nationwide gainers score rose 7 points between April and June. The survey was conducted from June 25 to the 29th with 1,200 adult respondents nationwide. With interest rates heading lower, traditional time deposits are losing their edge for savers. This is driving demand for products that can deliver steady income even as rate cuts continue. Sujin Kim has the details.
Because of the successive rate cuts in the country, with the benchmark rate now at 5%, yields on time deposits have likewise been sliding. This is pushing more Filipinos to turn to predictable or guaranteed income products, investments that are unaffected by rate cuts and deliver stable returns with insurance protection.
Regardless of the yield, there's that 110% coverage that is being offered. This one guarantees 5% for 10 years, whereas we can see TVs ranging now way below that. As we all know, there was a recent rate cut, bringing the key interest rate to 5%.
Now, insurance-based products are entering the market with guaranteed income features.
Everything guaranteed. There's guaranteed payout, guaranteed maturity benefit, guaranteed protection.
Two examples are the steady income plan requiring payments for 5 to 10 years, starting year 11. It provides a 10% annual payout until year 20, along with a full maturity benefit. The minimum investment is 50,000 pesos.
For a freelance, syempre, minsan limited lang the income that you will receive. But with a steady income, in a way that can supplement. Similarly, for a parent, diba? They can use the payout for the educational needs to supplement the educational funding of their kids. But at the end, diba, at maturity again, they can use that amount to what? To fulfill their own personal dreams.
Another option is the Wealth Preservation Plan, a one-time premium product that offers a 5% payout each year for 10 years and returns the full capital at maturity, with minimum investment priced at 500,000 pesos.
Those who are looking for wealth builders, those who want to diversify their portfolio, and those who want to basically stay on the safe side, yung mga risk-averse. Diba? This is a good alternative to low-yield placements.
These products come with a lock-in period, requiring investors to follow the payment terms to access the guaranteed payouts. But for those who want reliable cash flows and insurance coverage, these could be strong alternatives to the traditional time deposits. Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
After nearly 4 decades at the helm, Anna Wintour is stepping down as American Vogue editor, passing the torch to Chloe Mal as the new head of editorial content. The 39-year-old Mal has been with Vogue since 2011, most recently leading Vogue.com and co-hosting the podcast The Run-Through. She is the daughter of actress Candice Bergen and filmmaker Louis Mal, and has spearheaded high-profile features, including Naomi Biden's wedding shoot. Wintour, 75, will remain Vogue's global editorial director, shifting her focus to Condé Nast's international strategy and marquee events like the Met Gala. We're taking a short break. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump is pushing to deploy National Guard troops to help fight crime in Chicago, though he has yet to set a timeline. Trump has long threatened to expand his federal crackdown on Democrat-led cities like Chicago, citing presidential powers as an urgent tool against criminality. But city officials counter that crime is already easing, with homicides, gun violence, and burglaries all on the decline.
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say about, we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people. Governor.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is warning Latino residents to be on alert for immigration raids during Mexican Independence Day celebrations. Pritzker says President Donald Trump plans to deploy National Guard troops to Chicago, along with federal agents from ICE, Customs and Border Protection, and the Department of Homeland Security. The Democratic governor, already floated as a possible 2028 presidential contender, warns Chicago could face the same scenes in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., where troops are already on the streets.
Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here. Third, as lawful citizens exercise their First Amendment rights, Trump and his team will be looking for any excuse to put active duty military on our streets, supposedly to protect ICE. We have reason to believe that the Trump administration has already begun staging the Texas National Guard for deployment in Illinois.
Alphabet's Google has been ordered to share data with rivals, a move aimed at opening up competition in online search. The decision came Tuesday from U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta, but prosecutors' effort to force Google to sell off its popular Chrome browser was rejected. Google's CEO, Sundar Pichai, has warned that data sharing requirements sought by the Justice Department could allow competitors to reverse engineer its technology. The company says it plans to appeal that ruling. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.